of course, is when they had it here, the Kleenex here, right?
The
In the
Kleenex.
bosom. And they take it out and
Yeah,
wipe you with it.
that's exactly right. And it was not a one-time use thing,
Oh no.
right? Hey, welcome to adulting. I got a new pen.
Way to
Woo!
go.
It's from Robert's work. Sorry if his boss is
Did he
watching,
borrow it?
but yeah, he borrowed it for his mom, and now I'm representing Spexarnia Limited, and it's
Good for
lovely and orangey red.
my
Maybe
pens. I have several, and the reason I like them, and I have better, like expensive work pens.
yeah.
It's from Hub International, which is like car insurance.
Ooh.
For whatever reason, I got a couple of them, and then I go back to and pretend I get more insurance. They have free pens, right? It writes really good.
I take free pens everywhere I can go.
Yeah.
I'm like, you want a signature? Where's my pen?
Don't you love? Sorry, we're getting silly here, but hey, that's what we do.
Get
Don't
it?
you love when you have to sign something online and you got to try to use your finger and try to make it look like your
Oh
signature?
my
It looks
gosh.
nothing like your signature, right?
No. And you're like, how is that a legal document?
100%.
Like, seriously. I could have just done the infamous X.
Well,
Ooh,
I bought a house that
nice
way.
mug.
Oh yeah, this is my
Let's see.
what
Oh,
artist is that? Van.
go.
Yeah.
It's the only one I would know after you say Van. That's
I
very
think
nice, though. I like that. Nice
I
one.
think I said to you before we went to exhibition a few years ago, and it was at the Art Center downtown Vancouver. Me, Teresa, and Ethan wearing our masks, which whatever, and it was they had like this huge conference room, and this was in the gift store, so I bought it after. But they were showing all of his pictures, like the fisherman and all these famous pictures of his. But
Nice.
they had like big white cubes. It was on the ceiling and the floor. Like the way they did it was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Sounds like fun though. I
it
love
was
a good dancing
it was a
library.
good exhibition. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you like libraries or museum? You like museums?
I do. I've been to them.
Way to
Not
go.
not just the Wax Museum at Niagara Falls either. I went to real ones.
I was a part of an exhibit about the caveman.
Were you? They used you for an example? They're like, put
I
that
was
guy back in the cave.
they thought I was the missing link, and then they did a DNA test, and I wasn't.
And then they're like, oh, he's one of those
Yeah,
kids. I think
he is the missing link.
he is. Yeah, you're something. That's
Or
for
what was the
sure.
show? What was that actress Jane? Whatever she did the show, The Weakest Link.
Oh, and she was so rude. I love it. Hey, that's right.
She was so
Oh,
funny.
it's so funny though, when you think about where we are as society with social media bullies, and you look back at some shows like that and you're like, not surprised, right? It's almost like it gave people permission to use their inside voice outside. Just saying.
Well, it's so interesting you're saying that, and I'm laughing because I'm looking. Well, it's just me and you here right now, but it'll be on YouTube and people can hear the beginning, right?
Right,
But
exactly.
but I own what I say. But it's so interesting. So not to get overtly political, but I want to use like last night's debate. I don't know if you watched it or
I
not.
did not
Part
know.
of it. But you stay away from it. But I kind of know where you go, right? I think I
Oh,
do.
I'm sure I'll see some highlights. I
Yeah.
just haven't got that
So
far yet.
so for me, the 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 shift of media information
Oh, absolutely.
given it blows my mind. Here's how bad it blows my mind. So last night, I'm not talking about that, but just as an idea, right?
Yeah.
But this is how bizarre it is, I think, to me. I'm going like they talk about fact checking and that stuff, which I love, right? I think there should be
If it's accurate,
accountability.
absolutely. Yeah.
The amount of BS on whatever, not picking sides, but
Yeah.
the amount of power the media has and influence
Yeah.
to try to in not enhance but portray something. I was thinking about this last little while. I was saying like they should be like you should be able to be charged,
Oh, I agree.
and there is laws.
It's boggling, isn't it?
Yeah,
How I know I find that fascinating as well. All countries, but in these top two countries that are were involved in one way or another, like it or not, how they can blatantly say a lie, and then if media is not on your side, or if media is on your side, nobody asks a question. But the truth is right there. Like it fascinates me that they can look in the mirror in the morning, but it fascinates me that they can just get away with it with no repercussions. Like it's so amazing, but it also amazes me that you can make false promises and then get in, not
yeah,
do one single thing, and everybody's like, that's just the way. Like it boggles my mind.
yeah.
Totally boggles my mind.
I was talking to my son a bit about politics. Like when I drive him to, he catches the shuttle from where I live to the university, 30 minutes away, right?
Yeah,
So I was telling this to Teresa. I love like in a couple of years, more than likely he's going to the East Coast, probably Ontario or Quebec,
oh yeah,
to finish his wanting his degree in science. Right? He wants to be a scientist,
right,
and the programs and the universities that he should go for back there. So I said to her, I said like,
interesting.
I don't care about the inconvenience. The 20-minute car rides to pick him up or bring him to the shuttle.
Yep,
In 2 years, I'm going to look back and I'm going to go like when you're home, probably like your kids, like you have a little bit, you have moments, but you're hit and miss. So Ethan, come here, he'll make a meal, I'll make a meal, whatever. And then he's in his room, I'm doing my stuff, and then he's in his room talking
yep,
to his buddies in Toronto,
right.
playing games, right? And which is what it is, right? So the family, we'll get back to the news, but this family model of how we used to like. Do you guys eat around the table together?
No,
No.
no, we don't even have a table. We got a pool table.
I sit around the pool table.
Oh, tie dye. We can't even do that.
Oh,
But
jeez.
no, but when we gather for things, we sit around the living room and we have exactly enough seats for everybody. So yeah, we don't, but I definitely know the value of sitting around at the table having the conversations. It's funny what you say about that time being precious. Quite often I reflect on Nicole and I driving across Canada. Now she is has a family with kids. We'd never be able to do that today. Never mind be trapped in a vehicle together for days and days and days. But it's so true. Take it. It's like Xavier. He gives me a hug every time he walks by. Love you, Nana, and he'll go, love you, and he'll keep saying it till I say it back. I'm like, dude, I'm on the phone. Customer. But I mute them and I yell it back because I think there's going to come a day where he's not going to, or he's going to be embarrassed when I do, or whatever that looks like. So yeah, cherishing that time is so very important. And the other thing of it that's interesting, because I talk a lot about a lot of stuff, not to Nicole, but to the boys, following like a lot of stuff that we're just following all different things. But it's interesting to get their perspective because quite often it's nothing like my perspective, which
Yeah.
is interesting, right? But again, having a clear head where you're open to change. I'm not saying I always change to their perspective, but
No.
sometimes it'll change me a little bit as to what I'm thinking or being more open and accepting of other people, right?
100%. And I think so, and maybe another time. I know I somebody used this word to me the other. He goes, "You think on the run." I go, yeah, okay. Don't we all think on the run? Anyways, we don't. But I was thinking like the getting to the point where you're not threatened by a different opinion
Yeah.
is good. So again, nobody's here, but people can watch it later. I watched the debate last night. I had to go get Ethan, so I PVR everything mostly, then I could watch it and skip commercials, right?
That's right.
And one of the things that I appreciated, so not picking either side, right?
Yeah.
This debate, the VPs was they focused on policies, and it wasn't like a witch hunt, even
Oh,
though one
good.
would say, the Republican, you know, person going for president, like, and they lie, and then the
Of
certain
course.
channels support whatever, but it was actually done in a humane way.
Yeah,
And
right.
and I was telling Ethan this in the car. This was, like I said, a while ago. Like when I went to school in Toronto or Scarborough, we grade 11, I was a part of the debate team.
Hmm.
And one of the things, and I say this all the time, so I always forget who I say what to because I got old, right? But one of the things we did, see, talking about the memories of going with Nicole, and I'm convinced I should probably write a book about this. There, and because I think it has to do with our wellness, got to do with trauma and all these different things. They actually use some of this in Parkinson's, some of these things, right? This seeing pictures and remembering, being reminded because of these moments that are really important,
The emotions.
because
Right.
our brain will hold on to an, one trauma point compared to 10, 20 beautiful points or like good memories. That one trauma point, it doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
The way our brain's wired,
That's right.
it's like I don't know, it's like a fatter noodle going through, I don't know, whatever. That's a bad example, right?
Right.
But back to the school thing. So I remember I went to West Hill Collegiate in Scarborough, and we social studies, I think it was called back then. I don't know what
Oh,
they call it
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And so we were debating. So this would have been 1974, maybe five, long time ago. Dinosaurs were around, some of them at that time. And on this debating thing in social studies, so half the class, we had a couple days to study, to work together and come up with our what we thought. And so one half was debating on the the need of the death penalty,
Oh,
and
okay.
the
Yeah.
other half were doing why against the death penalty.
Right.
So it's great, right? The
Hmm.
following week, the teacher, brilliant, like one of these things, he says, okay, this side of the room, you do the opposite of what you argued for the death penalty. Now I want you to argue against the death penalty.
Right.
So the big thing that came out of that was it was I was thinking of fact checking. That's what I was thinking about. It took the emotional component. I mean, you probably, if you were against the death penalty and said you made whatever, that resin would still be in you, right?
Right.
But I mean, it's helped me in business and stuff too, right? But that being open to many sides, not feeling threatened,
Yeah.
being okay with diversity. I've got this article. I'll probably send it to you, and it talks. It's a very holistic thing, talking about the brain and the heart type thing, about how chemically, like like it's how our spirit and emotion and our body and our mind, like how they intermix, right?
That's right.
And so, anyways, it's just one of those things that I love to learn, and I do think it'll keep me sharp as I get older.
Absolutely. Well, and it's the synchronicity,
Yeah.
right? That heart brain cohesion is so
Right.
very important. Greg Braden that writes a lot about that,
Yeah,
shares a lot
I've
about
heard of
that.
it.
It's interesting what you were saying about that whole, when people, like, if I believe the sky is blue and then you come along and you're like, no, it's green today. It's so interesting how you, like, I'm just stating what I see, and maybe you're looking at a different angle. So you see it a little bit differently. Maybe yours is reflecting the grass, mine's reflecting the water. Like, just saying, but right away we take it personal and we get defensive, right? And we just start like, so it's like just the fact that you have a different opinion on something that doesn't matter, which I think is a key part of the example.
Yeah.
Um, is, yeah, all of a sudden it's like, no, it's my sky and it's blue. You're an idiot. Like, right? Or feeling like, well, they think I'm stupid because they see it a different way. And if I could reflect, I'm being fact checked. I was fact checked by Facebook this week. They canceled
Uh-oh.
one of my posts. Yes, you may have seen it. People who
No.
are my friends, you may have seen it before I got fact checked and probably a strike against me. And I'm very careful what I put on my social media because I do so many things outside of my own page.
Yeah.
I can't get kicked out.
No.
I can't. I have all my different things I do. So what I shared was a lady who was a young mom holding each of her two sons in her hands. And then the second picture was the two sons holding the mom.
So why would that be?
It wasn't true, Tom. It wasn't true. The fact checker said. So I go and I look and I'm like, I got a strike. The last time I got a strike was a couple months ago over a poem. That that was again. I know I'm a wild card. I don't know where I'm going. Just letting you know, I am. I know. I'm like, what? And then I had to go through the permissions. Finally, I'm like, what? It was the beautiful picture of the mom and her sons. Like, seriously,
See, and so
checkers are stupid.
so here, yeah, like so you talk about, I'll go back to my son. So Ethan and I are talking, and my son's so funny. So mom, I'll just say this, and I'm talking about Ethan, but so mom, even though she went up now, but she likes Trump. So leave that there, right?
Sure.
So Ethan, who's 18 years old, smart kid, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't, so I go like, so what do you think, not about one side, so what do you think about like politics and stuff, right? And I'm a quick thinker, too quick. He needs time. And if we're in the car, I ask
Oh
him a
yeah, he's a
question,
processor.
and,
Yeah.
and I feel like, okay, hey, you awake? Like, so I'm learning. My son will never see this, but whatever. If he does, then I'll deal with it. But do we have any people watching us?
I don't know. I can never tell. I'm
Because
not sure. You're the one that can tell. I don't
I don't
know.
see
I think
anything.
we're quiet tonight.
Yeah, I want to go on to, because I'm having an issue with um, we're frozen on my other laptop. I'm gonna click
Hey, if
here.
anybody's here, say hello in the chat.
Yeah. Okay,
That'll do it. Yeah, I can never tell. I don't know why.
um 10 plays, that might be me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So
Oh, they can watch the replay.
so understanding the difference. Hey, Missy. So there's somebody here.
Hey, miss.
Oh, this is so like I'm not seeing. Maybe because you got fact tracked, now it's affecting me and you. Anybody who's associated with Michelle,
Yeah, sorry, miss.
because I can't see. I don't see who's like I normally can see who's watching. I just see comments. I don't see.
I don't know. I never
Bizarre.
said
Anyways, if you're there, welcome to everybody.
that's
But
right.
so what we're talking about, we're going to talk about the balancing the differences from our mind and our heart, and how we manage to our wellness, our mental wellness, and relational, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But now we're talking about being open to people who may have diverse thinkings in ourselves. So how do we not become defensive and all that, which will go into the mind body thing, right? So I was talking about my 18-year-old son talking about politics. And so I said, so what do you think? Right. And he goes, like, I wasn't trying to put him in a group, but I did by accident. So what do you, like, you and your friends, like your demographics think, right? He goes, well, I told Michelle, if you just joined us, he takes time to process, and I don't. So like after 2 seconds, I wonder why you're not responding. That's why you and me work together, because we're ready. Like 1.5 seconds,
So.
we're there, right?
Because my Alec is the same. He's
No
like, and then
waiting.
3 days later, he'll be like, so I was thinking about whatever. I've changed my mind 8 times since we talked about that.
So it's an interesting thing when you think about the way we influence, right? So that's what he was breaking up. And
Yeah.
actually, the sidebar. I'm watching a show. I've got into these kind of Japanese kind of reality shows. I don't know why, or Korean, not Japanese, Korean. So there's one on Netflix called and you're frozen now. What's
No,
going on? This is
I'm
weird.
thinking. And no, was I frozen?
And it's called The Influencers. So if you want to watch something kind of weird and unique, and it's all these North Korean influencers, and they're on like either TikTok or YouTube, and I find those shows funny because the overdub's hilarious, right? So back to politics, I'm talking to my son. He goes, "Well, he goes, I know it's really important, and someday down the road, it's even going to be more important for me and my age group."
Right.
And so then I said, "So what do you think is important?" And I love this. He said three things. He said, the economy, he goes, there's a lot of us, we know that we're more likely to be staying at home till we're 30. We can't afford to buy a house, can't do this, blah, 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 right? And then he goes, with my friends, he goes, this is being in this coming out of high school. He says, we're not threatened by diversity. And he's totally not, right? So he goes, if I believe A, B, C, whatever way I believe in, I'm not threatened if my friend believes A, B, C, D. He's not threatened by um, diversity and sexuality in anything. He's cool, collected. So part of made me think like we get, and then he says like he says we need to learn to listen to understand, which I thought, hey, I write that one down, right?
Oh,
And I love that because we were talking about the media earlier, and and it's North America. Like I'm sure it's in Europe too to some degree. I mean, in communist countries, of course, they manage media, so leave that. But in North America, and if you watch like Global or CBC or whatever, right? You're you're not just getting an unbiased report of the news. You're getting based on their convictions.
oh, absolutely. I was going to
They're
say,
looking at the sky and saying it's blue, and it may be grayish. It may be
well, that's right. But they're not much just different than the communist countries because
yeah,
they're financed by our government, right?
yeah, or big companies that
Yeah,
invest in the government because they want the government to do what they want, right?
that's right. Everything is financed by
Yeah.
Pfizer.
So
Like, just for an
yeah, I was going to say
example.
that. So also I'll start asking you a question. So in that, so we're talking about the just the way we are with our just the way the world is right now for us, which is it's tough. Like I'm not a big news guy during like elections a little bit more, but it's background stuff for me. Like, but right now, and we went through remember crazy weather the last couple of years, Ontario out here, but you have the hurricane or tornado that just devastated the states.
Yeah.
You have what's going on in the Middle East. You have strikes on docks and food and price. So we live in this heightened um, place of stress, right? So in it, so here's my question to you, so you can give some feedback on your end. How do you balance with? Because I think you're good at this. You might hide it well. I don't know whether you're good at it, right? But what are your thoughts on how the brain reacts to stress to the heart or the heart to the brain? And then where do you find balance? I should have given you the question before. Sorry.
That's a oh, me.
Fact check.
So, so I avoid a lot of it because I don't participate. Like I don't, but as most of you know, I don't have cable per se. Like, what's the term anymore? Because I have cable, but it's my internet. But I don't pay into paid programming, I guess, so that I can be more selective. So that being said, so here's a funny thing. I watch Lethbridge, Alberta's news. I watch it on YouTube. I like it.
Why?
I like it. I don't know. I don't know. I like the way they present. I like the way that they talk about Canada, but it's not the same perspective that I see on any of my Ontario news. But that being said, I also watch some Canadian YouTubers do their news, but a lot of um that I watch, I just like I deke in, I get the details, I deke out. You know what I mean? When it comes to the storms and stuff, because of my other job, I am directly related. There's nothing more upsetting than somebody looking for a hotel room, right? When like they're in these scenarios. But for the most part, yeah, I'm selective of what um I expose myself to, but I've learned that as soon as I start feeling emotionally attached, whether it's in support of or against, then that's when I need to pull out. That's where I can't risk my own well, because I'll stew on it all day. I'm going to think about it all day. And then I'm going to look at another video. And then I'm going to look at something else. And then I'm down this big rabbit hole, and it's everybody's opinion. I lost two parts of it somewhere along the way. I passed the fork in the road, and now I'm like drowning, and it's dismal, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I, quite frankly, just my humble opinion, I don't support any of it. And so that really gets my gears going a little bit when I look around our society, everything that's around me that is a problem I think we should be working on. And I see that everybody's focused elsewhere. So I need to rein it in, but I'm always, or at least I try to be, very conscious of my how I feel. So as soon as I start to feel I'm getting choked up, and that can be angry or emotional, then I'm like, oh, okay, back up. And I've got enough, like that. I have enough information for what I need, but I have to trust my emotions, because if it doesn't serve me well, especially if it's another country, then there's right or a what if scenario. We've got lots of what if scenarios in our own country, but
Right.
I can't get caught up in that. If something's going to happen, I'll have to deal with it in that moment,
Yeah. So
right?
I I feel like on the debate, I'm those people that I hate and don't trust, because I'm asking you questions now. So let's go to the next question, right? But I'm not like, there's me and you in the screen. I'm not pro Tom or whatever.
Oh,
So let's
Michelle.
move away from the news and
Okay.
world events. So
Okay.
so let's use, because I'm using you, and you can throw it back at me, and I'm okay with that.
I can take it.
So if we watch, so give me, tell me a movie you recently watched that either got you frustrated or pulled at your heartstrings, and then we'll take it apart of it.
That's a really hard question because I don't really watch movies.
What's wrong with you?
Because I
Doesn't
watch
everybody
like
watch movies?
documentaries. I
What?
watch, so I mean, something that like a child was killed tugs at my heartstrings. But
Yeah.
so I guess it's not a movie per se.
Okay. So I'll take away the movies. That's why you don't watch the movies I tell you to watch. That's
Yeah,
okay.
pretty much.
Judgment,
I
right?
got them on post-its though.
Yeah, yeah. They'll go on your wall of 10,000. Um, so for those listening too, so this is why I'm going this way, right? If if something causes us stress, so we see injustice done, but like you're saying, we see we're watching a movie, and somebody's being taken advantage of, or scam, whatever, hurt, whatever, right?
Yep.
So when we're frustrated, what are your thoughts? And it's just thoughts. There's no right or wrong. We said earlier, we learn from each other. What when we're stressful, when things are causing anxiety, stress, do you what's your thoughts on where does it start in the brain to go to the heart, or do you think it starts in the heart, go to the brain? Or it could be either.
I think it could go either, but I think it's the brain first, which creates the vision or the story or the scenario. And then as a result, that's where the heart comes in. And I think that's where this is where we have to think on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking every 17 seconds, you're having a new thought. So if you don't rein it in, then next thing you know, you're in the fetal position in the corner over a scenario that might not even be on this rock, right? So, but that being said, that's flexing a muscle. That's your flexing your brain muscle, right? And reining it in, or having an attitude of gratitude, or but quite frankly, like I like to watch all these killing documentaries and stuff because I'm interested in the perpetrator and his life story, the behavior. How did he end up being like that? What's his parents like? Blah, 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 all that stuff. But I get to points where it's like, ooh, there's a little kid in there. I better next
Yeah.
because I will. Because then I start thinking, well, Gemma's 7, or whatever that relationship. And with me, you like, yeah, it's not the gore. I've been known to do this from
See,
time
it's so
to time.
it's so funny. Like, and I love this, right? Because I think one of my whole word languages. No, I didn't hashtag it yet, but
Okay.
it's being aware because we live in a world that's so fast, and all of a sudden, emotionally, I use word triggered. Some people they don't like that word. I don't. It doesn't always mean negative. Something you can have a smell, and you can. Oh my word, that pizza! Who's making that pizza? It smells
Yeah.
great, or burgers, or coffee, or whatever, right?
Yep.
So triggers, things that trigger our senses or emotions, or even thinking, we're triggering each other by conversation, right?
Sure.
So it's an interesting thing because we started off like last week we are talking about habits and practical things about habits. So I say to Michelle before we got on, so she's so great because I messaged her yesterday, say, hey, I don't know if we have a topic, but hey, what about this, right? Because it's what I was feeling, right? And and then she goes, hey, we kind of said this, but hey, and I said, well, this kind of works together. So I'm
Hashtag no coincidences.
it we can make anything work together pretty much and say 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whatever, right?
That's right.
Um, but but if you think about the thought habits or emotional habits, so things that I'm like you, I like forensic files. I
Oh,
hate what's happening, people, but the science of figuring out the evidence, I love it, right? Like I love it, right?
exactly. Criminal
Even
minds.
though what's happening is people are sad, right? I'm going to tell you a funny story that you don't know about from my childhood. Like from I was a teenager, right?
Yeah.
So we had a friend that was his name's Dave. I'm not using his real name in case everybody knows Dave or a Dave and you think it's that Dave. But Dave was a practical joker, right? So it just did different things like that. So, anyways,
Working hard.
Oh my goodness. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was trying to find our video.
oh, that's funny because I thought I hear voices now. That's what happened to Dave. No, um, so so inside he was in he was a good friend of mine, by the way, but he was lived next door to me, but he was in my psychology class, and we had just this is I had a Tibetan teacher that did theater arts and he did psychology, which was beautiful. The guy was great. He was a Tibetan monk, didn't look like one. He didn't have a robe or long hair, or he kind of looked like Marty Feldman. But anyways, he was awesome, right?
Right.
And so we're talking about influence. So this is like 40 years ago, well, more than that, 45 years ago, right? So check this story out, right? So we're talking about the emotions of the heart and the brain, right?
Yeah.
So this friend of mine, Dave, this is the true part of the story. He was a practical joker, right? So Dave would do all these jokes to us, right? So we're walking in the area where we live in Scarborough. We're walking up this hill towards the mall area, and we see now. I'm there in the third person. I wasn't physically there, but I'm the story. I'm there, right? So we see Dave's car. It's a red 1967 Mustang. It is flipped over. It's on fire, and it's his car. We tell by license plate, and there's plastic draped over a body. It's fatality, right?
Oh,
So the people I'm with, it's a true story, like I said, but I'm not there. I was told this story and we
got it.
processed it.
Yeah.
So one of the people there was Dave's girlfriend, and that's true. She was walking up the hill with some girls, friends of hers, right? She was devastated,
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
obviously, right?
Yeah.
So they won't let her see the body. It pulled out of a
Oh,
burnt car,
no.
blah blah blah, right? She's emotionally triggered. Where we lived was like probably a 5 minute walk. So now the parents are, so everybody's like freaked out, right?
Wow.
So all of a sudden, you're emotionally charged. And then all of a sudden, um, everybody's like mourning and it's sad and like they're just broken. Then all of a sudden, like the cops take the body away, like the car's burned, so I don't know how they're gonna find evidence.
Right.
So the parents go back home. He was an only child. He lived like right next door to me.
Oh.
And the girlfriends are like, they're just everybody's broken. Like it's an after school, it
Oh.
happened after school actually. And all of a sudden, when they get home, there's Dave. And I'm not even joking. You know what happened? Somebody stole his car and
Holy
flipped it.
snap. Oh,
So
wow.
so the evidence leads you to believe,
Yeah.
and the evidence not even wrong. It's his car, it's his license plate. Like it's like,
Yeah.
and they can't tell. Like you're not seeing the body, right? And so my psychologist, this monk guy, talked about and I don't think he was word trigger right there, but he was talking about like how the heart, when the heart um, overtakes the brain overtakes the heart, and he was about transcendental meditation, all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So it was interesting to me talking about the heart and the mind is in some of the shows that I watch, but in some of the courses I've taken, you can have somebody who's been traumatized, like very difficult childhood, but all of a sudden, some of the what they believe beyond measure that were tangible experiences were almost not a hallucination, but they're because of like their life experiences, they were emotionally triggered. The example will be you have an abused dog. So you have a man comes home picking on the guys, hard day at work, comes in, kicks the dog, comes back, kicks the dog. The dog associates this man,
That's
so
right.
he goes to a good home, the man's good, shrinking back, right? In relationships with people. So
Sure.
that's I'm being in a touchy area, so I apologize, right? But it's interesting how our brain works, how we're influenced, right? Even by smells, even by things that happen that experience could have been bad, but we're not in that bad experience, but we have it's like flashback type thing, right?
That's right.
So
It's
part of it is
association.
how do we wrestle through it's like a bit of your story, not going too detailed, but you've shared here about being in two very difficult relationships with men.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm gonna ask you a question if it's okay. I probably asked you this before because I'm getting old, but all of a sudden you come out of those things, you were younger, and through whatever time period, I don't even know what time period, you meet Al. So how, because your heart is broken because these are people you loved and cared about, your heart and brain are traumatized. So you come out, so you make that decision, was great, but now your heart and brain probably together are a bit fragile based on 1 second here, based on sorry, my son missed his shuttle and he just texted me, goes, I can't catch. I got to catch the 5:55. So I
I mean,
hope
you have to
Mom's
go
not
get
on her way there. Anyway, so
them.
but
Do you have to go get them?
no, Mom's going to get them. So, anyways, but
I
you know
love.
what I mean, right? So for you again, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but what did
I
you
will
do?
tell you the
What did you
secret.
do to to work through brokenness into being vulnerable again?
When I met Al, the last thing I wanted was a boyfriend.
Me too.
Not interested. I was not interested. And actually, um, he moved. We were two ships in the night. We were both going through shit, and he moved into my basement,
Right.
which like so we became friends obviously,
Right.
and then he needed a place to stay, and I was being terrorized in my own home by two different people, so I
Right.
needed a bodyguard, let's just say it that way. So he moved in the basement, and then it was very like I don't even, we joke that like we got together in October. We don't really have a date because
Right.
it just so I think that's a big part of it though. That two things that I think are key. Number one, if you don't clean your shit up, you're going to take it into the next relationship with you. So that
Right.
self healing, the accountability, owning your part, like that was something that I had to work through, that I was the common denominator. I'm
Right.
not right. I'm not saying other people were didn't have a big piece of the demise, but I had to realize, I was young and immature, or maybe I was the fixer, so I thought, or whatever that looked like. And then the other thing is, when you're looking for love, you're looking for trouble. If you work on yourself, you're going to be in the right place at the right time. But when you're looking, you're setting a bar. Is it high enough? Is it low enough? What are you settling for? What are you needing? And then, like you said, what are you taking with you? Like, you really have to grieve and detox
Yeah.
after any long-term relationship, right?
Yeah.
You have to really, and that's going to be a process, and it's going to be different for everybody. And, you know, it and there isn't even like a formula that if you've been together for like a year or 5 years or 20 years, sometimes
Right.
a 20-year relationship, you're so fed up, you're like, I am just going to be happy alone forever and I'm good with that, right? Or whatever that looks like. So but I think, yeah, self-care, working on yourself. I posted something this week that I can't see from this page, but it's sort of aligned with that it needs to start with self-care, right? Like you can't be how does that one go? An incomplete one can never be an equal part of a two.
Love it. That's so good.
It really is, right? And it's so true. Because you're gonna, and this is what happens. People, and don't overthink the word rebound, but in these rebound relationships, when you're not ready, you're comparing. You're thinking, well, my ex never came home for 3 days. Where are you really going for chips? Like, that's what uh, that's what
Yeah.
Nicole's dad used to do. He'd go for chips and come back 3 days later with a hangover. So you'd have to deal with that, and then your own emotions, or having the I'll get you before you get me. You're not going to break my heart. I'll break yours first, right?
Yeah.
All those other things that come with it as well. And it's not just your like your personal relationships, it's even your employment, right? Like if you walk in with a bad attitude of, well, the last job screwed me over, or whatever, and I'm not saying they did or they did not, but you still have to cleanse yourself from that and just
Yeah.
realize, you know what? I am not the right fit to work for a big corporation. Just that is somewhat true about me, even though I work for two worldwide corporations. But that's a big part of me, is that I hate being just a number. And I mean, I like my manager. It's not that. I know I'm not just a number to them, but I'm sure you get that too in your company. Like, so there's advantages to the mom and pop, but there's also advantages to having benefits or whatever working for a big, you know what I mean? But again, you want to learn from every chapter and then move into the next chapter fresh, not
Yeah.
be bringing baggage with you. And you have to get, when you're not feeling the emotion anymore, that's when you're wise. That's when you've learned the lesson.
So talk about, so I'm just asking questions. I'll share something. I'm a question guy, right?
I'll
So
come
talk about um, your thoughts on the emotion of our heart compared to the emotion of our mind. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, it's an interesting thing because they're so similar yet so different. Because do you know you have brain cells in your heart?
I'll share. I'll send you that article I told you,
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
and it
Um,
talks about that.
it talks about that. Who wrote the article? Do you know off the top of your head?
Okay, keep talking, and I'll find it for
Okay,
you.
I'm curious if it's somebody I've read or followed. But that, yeah, so that, see, and then we're getting into energy. So energy is a big thing as well, right? So when you think about, and not everybody's gonna align with this, but it is scientifically proven. When you think about Charlie Brown, and remember Charlie Brown's friend Pigpen? And all the dust was coming out. It's sort of like that with our energy, and it stems from our heart. So that's part of the heart brain coherence, is that you have actually a piece of brain in your heart and they're connected. And when you feel good, people can pick up on that. Like you might get the same thing I do. I get people that say to me quite regular, I don't know what it is about you. I just feel so good when I'm with you. And that's what it is. It's the energy. And it literally, it's the same energy is when you walk into a room and somebody just finished laughing and you didn't see them smile, but you know they were laughing or they were necking or something or telling it something inappropriate. And you don't have to see the act. That's that same energy, right? I love this topic so much because it's so
See,
true. So they're so interconnected, but again, it's where balance lives, right? You got to
see,
figure out and listen to yourself.
see, like you said, you walk into a room and they just finished laughing, and if you're insecure and if you haven't dealt with some stuff,
Oh,
if you
they're
don't, if
laughing
you,
at you.
it's laughing at you.
That's
Or
right.
if you've been with a spouse that cheated,
Yep.
then whenever you're feeling insecure,
Yep.
then if they're not there, 3 days is obviously either a binge or whatever, right?
Houston,
But
there's a
but
problem.
all of a sudden they talk to somebody of the opposite sex. So owning our like living in self-denial, like understanding ourselves, which is lifelong and it shifts.
Yep.
All of a sudden, like my story, all of a sudden through this and I'm a decent guy. I'm not perfect. I have mistakes like
We're
everybody else,
okay.
right? But all of a sudden I hit cancer, I'm
Yep.
bedridden, I'm probably realized for the first time in my life how through whatever happened to my body, so it happened to my physical body first, then affect my brain in that experience. And then I'm like so depressed. If I could find a way off this crazy thing, Jane, then I would have, and not hurt the life insurance for my family, I would have gone. I was so, and you know what I think in that, so the body's traumatized. They removed, chunk of my body. So
Right.
my cavity, everything. So that already has an effect on you mentally, emotionally, all that stuff, right?
Sure.
But it's happening to your biological makeup. So there's these triggering synapses that are happening that you don't maybe even have words, right? So the article is, and I'll send it to you. It's the thing is the way. Um, it's called The Way of Meditation. I'll send it to you. It's the science of
Yeah.
balancing the heart and mind. The author or the writer is Oscar Phoenix.
Ooh, I don't know that one. Yeah,
There
send
you
it to
go.
me. I'm very interested. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
so on so on it, we like trying to like if you're wired like let's use our sons, right, the way we are, we're quick thinkers. That's probably something that was our nature, and was it nurtured or not nurtured, whatever experience, right?
Yeah,
But it's just where you are, and then and being okay for somebody who needs time to process is been it, I'm learning,
right.
like I'm like overcome objections. Let's figure this out. You want 2 rooms? You need 2 rooms. You need 2 bathrooms. Do you need extra pillows? Well, I don't know. Well, either you do or you don't, right? I
Right.
got the next phone call waiting. What are you doing to me, right? But here's a
Come
couple.
on, Gloria.
Here's a couple of things. So in my opinion, the mind and the heart are independent. But I'm going to try to, without spilling my water, I'm going to show you the picture. Like I said, I'll send it to you later, but I'm going to turn my little camera to, sorry, I'm doing it the wrong way. What's wrong with me?
I don't
No,
know.
I'm still doing it the wrong way.
You could also just send it to me and I could share it on the screen.
Okay, so it's got a picture of a mind on a teeter-totter, and on the other side is a heart, right? So, so they can be independent and they be interdependent. That's just the way it is. Sometimes we think I come up with a rational realization. Joe is blah 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 blah. So that's it. I don't want to be with Joe anymore. Then we see Joe, and our heart goes flutter, flutter, flutter,
That's
flutter,
right.
flutter,
Yeah.
flutter. Right? It's probably why Charlie Brown kept trying to kick the football, and Lucy kept pulling it away. Right?
Exactly right. That's right.
Because there was I know it's a cartoon, but there's a relationship. So here's one of the thoughts I had. One of the questions for you: should, in your mind, in your opinion, should the mind protect the heart, or should the heart protect the mind? I know it'll go back. Let's. We're gonna do my debate team. So how should the mind protect the heart? What are some just thoughts off the top of your head?
Well, I think so. This is where you could ask yourself some standard questions like, well, is the emotion I'm feeling real? Is it real? Is it true? Right? Is it justified? Can you qualify it? Is it temporary? This too shall pass. Like when you think about the fluttering heart, it's seeing an old romance, maybe the mind should remind you, hey, it shouldn't take 3 days to get a bag of chips. Just or do I need a new appliance? Because that's what I got every time a cheating happened. Like whatever that is, and that tends to rein you in, right? Or with
You
the
only
other
need so
one,
many appliances, right?
yeah, well, this is it. I mean, good grief. So yeah, or did I look good with a black eye? No.
Yeah.
So that's
And you
your
know what's
voice of reality, right?
and what's interesting with that, hold your thought for a second, but what's interesting with that is depending on our emotional state, by the way, we said earlier, depending on our self-value,
Yeah,
and if you don't invest in, by the way, I think there's a word, selfish. I think if you're selfish, you will end up being alone at some point.
that's right.
So it's this thing of giving self-worth, self-value, investing in self, mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like. It can look different, right?
Yeah,
So we do that, and then and in that place, when somebody is like not just neglectful, but it's a form of abuse, relational abuse, right?
for sure.
So in that, and I'm going to use for an example, and my daughter's on here sometimes, but I'm going to say this because I feel it's safe, and I think she'll be fine, right? What happens is when you're insecure and you're dealing with, I'm dealing with anxiety and depression, and you don't feel valued in a relationship for 10 years, using
Sure.
you and your years, right?
Yeah.
Then what you do out of survival, now this is the brain, in a way, the logical thinking, the rationalization, this guy's an idiot, doesn't have to be perfect, but at some point, this, I like, so many appliances is a joke. Hashtag I only need so many appliances.
Right.
Um, but then you begin to cover up, like you said about the black eye. Then you begin to not, inside, you know, you're not validating. Inside, you're actually hiding. You're hiding from yourself. You're hiding from your fears have overwhelmed you, right? So all of a sudden, emotionally, you're like, it, you. I'm not saying with you. I'm just saying in a general sense. Even some guys that I work with, all of a sudden realize they have been petrified of. They've lost everything that's important in family, right?
Oh,
Kids,
totally.
families,
Yep.
parents, whatever. And they have internally villainized themselves
Yep.
to cover up this sense of being vulnerable, the heart. And then the rationale, we were talking about the news earlier, about the fake news, right?
Right.
You begin to rationalize why I need to lie to myself and others. So my daughter, if she's on here, then nobody knows her but you, well, my other siblings, but she was stuck, until she's not stuck now, she's out of that, but she was stuck, and she would cover up. All of a sudden, not right away, when her and her ex separated, they've been separated for a year and a half now, something like that, she was so traumatized that she still would, there'd be the ghosts or the hauntings of being in that place of trauma, even though that person was there. It's like the dog isn't, the door
Yeah,
opens,
of
it's not a
course.
man, and the trigger of the sound of the door, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, and this will lead to a point of like finding balance, because we're talking about habits last week in this. So part of it, when you realize, if you over rationalize, and you can do that in either way, you can go, oh, you know what? He looked at me weird. Like, here, you've got partner number one, total dick, guy or girl, doesn't matter. And partner number two is fine. I'm thinking of one of our sisters who kept getting guys in the bar, by the way.
Right.
Partner number two, and she's here, she'll kill me, but nobody knows her but us. But partner number two has some of the traits you're attracted to, rugged, whatever, cowboy, I don't know, whatever, right? Biker, whatever, right? But all of a sudden, fine, then this mannerism pops up. So for you have an emotional and a mental reaction, the full blownness of this
Right.
situation you were in. So in that situation,
Yeah.
your heart becomes fearful, but your mind is triggered back. It's like, I know people that have been stabbed or robbed or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, you have what do they call it? Not a blowout. They have
Well, it's
like,
like a flashback, isn't
well,
it?
we're saying flashback, but what happens when all of a sudden you have like an allergic, like a big reaction? What's that called again?
Flare up,
A flare up. There you go.
flare up, flare
So
up.
so going back to you again, so talking about, for you, leaving trouble number two, you go through, you're not looking for trouble anymore,
Right.
albeit his name. No, Joey, you're not looking for trouble. You're at that point, you're trying to probably self heal
100%.
and survive, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, these pictures of trouble one and trouble two, in the form of, forget what they look like, it's a dude, because
Right.
that's what trouble is. All of a sudden, what what can you share that you think that gave your mind and heart this idea that it was okay? Was it because you weren't looking for love?
I
You
think
said that.
so. Absolutely. And I think, you know, have you ever heard the pick your heart? So, like, but getting out of both of those relationships were very hard. And to, yeah, very hard. And so there are two things I'd never want to do again, regardless of who the person is, but going through that experience and court and all sorts of, and then the kids and all that stuff. that really, something like that gives you strength, right? And that's when I really started hardcore meditating. I went
Right.
through a period there, where, yeah, there's like a lot to unpack in those days. But so I was really hardcore into meditating, and then yeah, and so I think that self-love, going back to my core and all the confidence and everything that my dad had instilled me as a young kid, and then just even thinking back to not just things that he would say, and my mom too, she'd say some good things, but then other little things like when I worked in the Greasy Spoon, my it was a couple that owned the restaurant, and she used to say to me that, what did she say? Something she wouldn't say like that you're better than this, but she'd say like there's something really big and bright ahead for you. I can just tell. And it was sort of always because I got pregnant at 18. It was sort of, and I finished my grade 12 in there. But it was sort of decided between me and my dad at some point that as soon as Nicole went to school full time, that's when I was going to go to college. So I was just sort of treading water, and that's when I was waitressing in there and everything. And so, little nuggets like that are so very powerful that people say to you along the way. And that's why we need to believe them and cherish them and hold on to them, and then use those in reflection to realize like I'm just as capable as everybody else. I'm as smart as everybody else. If I apply myself, of course. And then celebrate along the way. We talked about that a few weeks ago. That like all your accomplishments, just celebrating them every time, even with waitressing. Like when I got into fine dining, I reached a glass ceiling. I got as high as I could without an education. But, being proud of that, being a single mom with three
Right.
kids, not easy. But, and I think this is where no matter who you have in your life, give them that positive reinforcement. You might not realize how it can make a difference to somebody, even if they never remember your name or who said it. It's not about that, but it's those things like that that can really carry somebody through. And and it's a personal thing with me, I try to do that to everybody I cross paths with, especially anybody that's waist high or lower, because you never know, right, what they're hearing at home. So I'll point out to them, wow, you have really pretty hair, or aren't you smart? Don't you know big words? Or I don't know, something like that. Just because you're making a difference. There are people that never get that. Like,
Right.
absolutely never.
See, you know what's interesting, right? Interesting. This is to me, this is like in my personal journey. I'll share a few minutes of that, but then also like on our journey, right? I love some of the indigenous stories, and not just in North America, but like I think of Australia and some things like they're really big on storytelling and journeys. And so there was a chief here in Chilliwack years ago. He's passed away now, and he said this thing, and I thought, hey, it's pretty cool, but like I heard what he said, but I think the resonance of it took time. And
Yeah,
he says you have to look back in order to go forward.
that's right.
And and it was just one of those things where um like some people will say that's navel gazing. It wasn't to do with that. As I'm
I know what
older,
that means. What does that mean?
navel gazing,
Yeah, never
that
heard.
means just looking at yourself, you're good, like woe is me, or I'm bad. Like it's the highs and lows. It's like devaluing or overvaluing type thing, right?
Oh, okay.
Like so so the hard thing is, and I'll say this and then you finish up, and I just gotta phone mom because she's waiting to pick up my son, right? But but here's the thing, right? So we have I think we have to understand. So getting to this point of my life, I look back, we are talking earlier, I see a picture, or like you've got post-it notes or pictures, and we as we get older, we see this this timeline, sort of speak, and And we were talking earlier where you can have, like, I'll use me. 7 years ago, October 10th, coming up, I got cancer surgery that was supposed to be 3 hours, that took 7. Teresa's waiting for the doctors to come out and say how it went. And all the nurses are going out and telling her, well, he's still in surgery, still in surgery. So all of a sudden, she, talking about worry and stress and that, right? But I look back that now through the incredible hardship, and all of a sudden I realize, um, not to value that, like, oh, hey, that was great, but I can look back now and I see the evidence of how it's brought me to today, right? So the thing I was going to say is this. Remember the idea of, you've heard the saying, fight or flight,
Yeah.
right? So first of all, our body does that. We're talking about our cells storing fat because they don't really know the next meal's coming, right? So we have that probably in our nature to some degree,
Oh,
passed on.
100%.
And then we, depending on our experiences, right? So if we have experiences like, for me, not having a father, not having that affirmational, not that I was a weak child, I was the oldest child, so I felt the weight of the responsibility, right? But we talked about, like, wanting our parents to be happy or not disappointed, and then we bring those relationships. So all of that stuff, there's something in us, depending on experience and what we feed in, which you said, that will fight or flight. You can flight at my daughter internally, and you're there, but you're not there. You know this, right? You're there, and we've been in those situations, right? And so what happens is, because we're talking about creating habits, is understanding the beginning to dig trenches in our mind, the mental muscle memory. When you feel like crap, you say, you know what? And you say this all the time. So I'm giving you pom poms, high fives, right? You, like, I don't like overtly platitude. Like, don't say, hey, I'm 6 feet tall and you're 5'4". I'm like, stupid,
That's
right?
right.
Right?
Identify as a tall person.
Don't say, I was gonna pick on poor Michael Jackson, but I'll leave it out, right? Anyways, I guess you could get shoe extensions. You want to be 6, but you look at yourself, and I've said this here. I feel healthier now than I have in a long time. I've had a really tough couple of weeks. I've gone through just anything coming at me, like relationally or financially or whatever. I feel like it's a garden that's been weeded properly, taken care of, and all of a sudden everything's popped up, right?
Right.
And then it's like, holy shit, like, where did this stuff come from, right?
Uh,
Then we talk about reset. So you know what? You take a breath.
that's right.
And if our brain becomes overstimulated, that would be watching a whole bunch of stuff that sets you off, by the way.
Yeah.
Or if your heart becomes overstimulated, because pick on my daughter again one more time, but we want affirmation. And by the way, I did this as when I became a teenager. I hid from the pain of my life by doing drugs.
Yeah.
And I sold drugs to validate myself at school because I was picked on. So
Right.
even though they still used me for the drugs, like I was a poor kid in a rich school, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care as long as they were there.
Exactly right.
Like, how effed up is that, right?
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, the affirmational self-affirmation and around us.
Yeah.
When we go through the traumas of our life, we become we're needy, right? And what happens is, we're going to get flashbacks, or we're going to get triggered. Like, you can't help it in the world, right? You're going to see the red 1967 Mustang flipped over, and you think it's the body there is triggering you all over. You got to take a breath.
That's right.
You got to take a breath.
Ground yourself.
It's hard, but if you do that, Michelle talks about what we talk about. We're talking about habits, right? So understanding that your body, as you get older, and your mind through life experiences, work, relational, family, kids, love, whatever, people at work that are stupid, whatever, right? Well, by the way, when I'm stupid, Michelle, I don't physically look in the mirror, but I go to myself, go, you need to like stop being stupid. You
That's
need you need to be honest with yourself. First of all, give yourself a hug. No, don't do that.
you do this.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're so awesome, right?
Uh,
But we
You
joke
can
about
high
like,
five yourself.
yeah. No, I remember I missed last week,
Oh,
right?
right.
So in all of this kind of seriousness and how do we deal and my heart feels like like for me, quickly saying this out there again, whoever sees this, my wife and I have been separated for 2 years. We've been married for 32 years. Michelle knows my wife. My wife's lovely. You know, we've been through a um, really hard time, and she's wrestling, and we're wrestling with the practical thing about like these practical things were really hard when I was with you.
Right.
No abuse. Actually, being honest, I was to a fault. Like I wasn't smart with money. I would like give away, not get to a fault, by the way.
Right.
And she wants to feel security and not in no weird way. I don't need to have a mansion or whatever, right?
Right.
And we're wrestling through that because the heart, and she doesn't come from my DNA strain,
Right.
obviously, else that'd be weird.
That'd be weird. Right?
I'd have to go get help. But we said at the very beginning, like, be willing to hear differences, and it's so hard in relationships, work relationships, or marriage relationships, or with our kids. Like my 18-year-old son thinks different than me. The way he sees the world is different, and it's not all negative. So if I want to be my wellness, I want to be open to I don't have to believe everything I hear, right? But I need to be willing to try to understand. And that's what the indigenous chief, that's what he meant. He says, you look back. So looking back was like see where you've come, see the influence, the people. You don't know what happened yesterday until you're into tomorrow type thing. Does that make sense?
That's
Right.
right.
So I got to quickly phone mom. I'm staying here. I'm just muting me. So you finish
Oh,
up.
okay. All right. I'm going to share a video, everybody. You're going to love it. And Tom's going to watch it with one eye. And he is also going to love it. And he's probably going to laugh out loud while he's on the phone. So hold on a second while I get this ready. It is 47 seconds. Hey, if anybody's watching us, you'd be very quiet today. I just want to tell you, we appreciate you and we're glad that you're here. So hold on a second. And so the last couple of videos, oh my goodness, I have got censored through YouTube. So last week's isn't up yet, but it's going to be. But let's watch this one real quick. And I hope Tom has his audio on.
I deserve good things. I am entitled to my share of happiness. I refuse to beat myself up. I am an attractive person. I am fun to be with.
Daily Affirmation with Stuart Smalley. Stuart Smalley is a caring nurturer, a member of several 12-step programs, but not a licensed therapist.
I'm going to do a terrific show today, and I'm going to help people because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
I love it. Do you remember Stuart Smalley?
Yes, but when you said I love it and he's talking about helping people, I'm going, is she kind of saying that's me? Yeah.
I love it. That's so funny. So true story. When I used to do my radio show, I played that from time to time.
Yeah.
Just for because you have to be able to laugh at yourself,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but it's true. As much as that's like mocking, you really have to be able to say that to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It's important.
So the thing I was going to say, and then you can, we got away from our quotes for the day. That's fine. We got
Yeah, I
videos of
know.
it. The videos have been
find
great.
them.
So here's the thing. Back to creating good habits, bad habits.
Yep.
What I think, for some people, and we're all different. Some people is if I shelter myself and deny it, it's not real. Yeah. I think at some point, if you're walking on the 401 and you don't believe the traffic's coming at you, you may find out sooner than you want, right?
Exactly.
So,
True.
so we have to understand, like we talk about negativity. I love your stinking thinking. So part of what it is when we have these moments, experiences, challenges, we don't want to live in denial on them. We got to go, okay, you know, like I can't go, oh, like I know people like this, Michelle, which is weird. Like when they found cancer, I had cancer. It's what it was, right? That was my
Right.
body, whatever, right? And with you, with your, and you sound good today. You're not having issues breathing.
I'm
You sound
not too
great.
bad today, but I haven't started my treatment yet. But no, feeling good today.
Yay, high five, pump ups.
Yeah.
So perception, perspective, perception,
Yeah.
self-perception. If you've been devalued in whatever means of work, this is going back to the habit, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I would encourage you to do.
Okay.
If you feel devalued through life, and devalued doesn't mean you want people to do like fake pom poms as I do, but you want to find self worth, right? And if you're not a millionaire, then you're not a millionaire, but you're still worth as much as that millionaire. It doesn't matter, right? Makes
Right.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So part of it is this whole idea of self. When did I write this down? Changing self-denial is looking at yourself and go, you know what? I am part of the human race and I'm important. And
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not sucked into this culture that I'm measuring myself against Tom or Michelle or Wendy or Tammy or Joe or Peter or Dave, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And when we could do that, and then when we realize that, so even though we've been through difficult relationships, upbringing, like again for me, I went through abuse, very violent home, and the only way I had to mask my emotional, like we didn't have, well, we probably did, we didn't in our culture, we didn't have psychologists and therapists who
no.
we probably really need, right?
He had a
I had
belt
to
and
live
a
with-
spoon.
I had to live with the thing of being molested and being abused,
Yeah.
right? So you live with that. And then as an oldest child, then this is internal, this is probably nurture. You take the weight of not keeping the family together
Right.
as the oldest, which it's a nurture thing as being the oldest, majority of old people, or single, like if you like a single, right? And then you try to mask it. And so the way I was popular was selling drugs, right? And rock and roll. I could play 3 chords, right? So I was like, that's cool, right? And then the funny thing, so nobody knows this, but this will get to a point of self wellness, right?
That's right.
You know what? I was one of those guys when I was younger, like in my early teens, mid-teens. I didn't have a girlfriend until probably 19. You know what, Michelle? I was one of those guys that the girls were saying, "Oh, you're so easy to talk to." I was like the male version of a girlfriend.
You were. You're in the friend zone.
Yeah, and me and my other 2 buddies, all 3 of us were that way. We're like, "What's wrong with us? Are we ugly?" And I remember one time, like we're all 3 15-year-old guys, probably a little bit of ganja, and we all started. My friend Chris started crying. The girls won't date me, and then my other buddy started crying, and then I started crying. And so I talk about looking back. I look back, I'm going, and then we were embarrassed where 3 of us were crying with each other. But we weren't. It was so interesting. What triggered you in that thing,
Exactly.
right? By the way, hashtag Tom's movie encouragements
Oh,
is
million views.
when I watch, and I believe with all of us, you said about shows, finding things that I don't want to use trigger, finding things that have an effect on us, not sending us like in the deep end, is important. I think it's important for men to watch movies that pull at your heartstring. You don't have to watch like some like chick flick. That doesn't work. But
Officer
pay
and
it
a
forward.
gentleman.
Even Braveheart, right? You saw Braveheart, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Braveheart, forgetting the Scottish and Viking, all that stuff. At the end, when he's sitting there, you don't know how many guys over my years that like were watching and they're tearing and they're trying not to cry in front of anybody, right?
Right.
this sacrifice, right? So this whole idea, so it's going to come back to us, right? Here's the deal. And you want to create a right habit for a healthy heart, healthy mind, and it just takes time. Takes time. You don't want to overprotect your heart because you'll end up being lonely, and your heart's going to have some scar tissue on it, and so will your brains. You will lock into thinking something in a certain way all your life, then all of a sudden you get to whatever age, you go like, why did I think like that, right? And so in it, believing in yourself, going, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm one of the guys I'm counseling, just a very difficult, broken relationship, and he's been married, we've separated now, but 30 years, so he's awkward of meeting like a person, right? So practically, and he wants to be comfortable around the opposite sex. So one of the things he did is he took a 4-week once a night course doing cactus arrangements or something he found. I can't remember, right?
Okay.
I love that. Part of it is like allowing your heart to breathe. The same as your mind, you get all these overtly craziness, like even with when they do psychosis with like schizophrenia and all that. So outside of bipolar, outside of needing probably a drug chemical,
Right.
finding zones where they can, it's like remember the elastic band thing?
Yep.
Where you flick it. So it's not that, but there's things. I've got a couple of friends that are psychologists, and they say the people that they deal with that are way above my pay scale, right? They say we give them these points that when they feel overwhelmed or triggered, then it settles them down. It's that breathing.
Like
Remember,
tapping?
so I'm going to end. You can finish. I'm going to end on a movie, as I do, right? Because this goes to what I was talking about. Finding your own remedy, your own prescription, right?
Right.
Do you remember a movie called What About Bob? Bill Murray.
I don't think I ever watched it.
Write it down. It's old. Bill Murray's pretty funny, right?
I love Bill Murray.
Ghostbusters, right? You watched that, right?
Yeah, it was dumb.
Okay. The premise of What About Bob? It's old. Richard Dreyfuss is a psychiatrist.
I don't know. I'll check it out.
Bill Murray, just look for the clips. Bill Murray is this schizophrenia, germophobic. He has everything, and Bill Murray suits it, right? So he goes to this guy, and he's driving Richard Dreyfuss. He finds somebody he likes, and then he clings on, and then it's crazy, right? So in the movie, whoever wrote the script's genius. Richard Dreyfuss gives him a note, writes him a note, and he says, take a vacation from your problems. Here's a note. Here's a prescription.
Oh, okay.
Here's a prescription.
Yeah.
So the reason the movies, I don't know how it is. I haven't watched it in years, but I would share that in some different group functions. And I was driving. I remember this teacher. She was married to a principal, and she goes, "If you say what about Bob one more time, I'm going to strangle you," right? But you know what it is? When we become overwhelmed, our heart or our brain, take a breath.
That's right.
Recenter. Remind yourself. Michelle says this, you got this. If you need support, have the people in place. If you're feeling way overwhelmed, you need to have those trust places that you can go, like, I'm falling apart, right? I had that today. I asked to talk to my landlord. It was just a great little, wasn't a meltdown. I said, hey, this is my life, right? He says, you know what, Tom? You can always talk to me.
Good.
And he's my landlord. We're not like best friends, talk a little bit, right? You have to find those places where you can get out that negative, stinking thinking.
That's right.
The pieces of your heart that are so insecure that you'll tag on to anybody.
That's right.
That looks your way.
Yeah.
And you got to say, you know what? I'm so worth it that I'm going to invest the time, energy, money probably in myself. Yeah. Because the best version of myself would be the best for me and for those around me who I love. Exactly. And by the way, I was going to swear, but I won't. You buggers. I'm talking to all of us, by the way. You buggers. The effect it has it on the world, like the movie Pay It Forward.
Exactly.
The effect Michelle going across the country, like to me, it's hard. I know it was hard. I wasn't there, but I know the struggle of it. I'm pretty sure she could have given up, like getting just to Winnipeg.
Oh,
Ontario
absolutely.
was so long to get through,
Oh my God,
right?
that's right.
What the heck? I didn't know it was good. And then the rest of it's not bad. It's getting Northern Ontario to Winnipeg, right?
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you put the work in and you finish it, and all of a sudden, it's something you draw on, and other people too for the rest of your life. Like I bring it up lots, right?
Yeah.
You draw on that. You go, man, it was hard. You look back, man, it was hard. But you know what? By my sacrifice, I know I've affected people. I may never know.
Exactly.
Like the person in Tim Hortons that you bought the coffee, but you don't wait for them to thank you. You move.
Yeah.
You don't know the effect you have on people. So when we affect ourselves, and even if we're walking with a limp, and I've watched these things about vets like missing, like losing limbs and all this stuff,
Oh
in the
yeah.
States, and working through PTSD. One of the courses I take is on that, and it moves me, Michelle, because I can't imagine. I get stuck sometimes with this huge hernia. I can't imagine being paralyzed, my back broken, losing my arms and legs. Like I can't even. I don't even know how I go on. But then I see this, and they're heroes. And they champion me. So
Yeah.
saying all that, champion yourself.
That's
Be
right.
your own hero.
Love it.
And you fight for I was going to twisted sister. Fight for your right to, But you are so worth, each one of us, and we need it in this world, that you're so worth the investment of when bad times come, mind or heart, and they go back and forth, they fluctuate. Find the good habits that are going to make your mind and heart stronger.
Exactly. I agree. Let that carry you through. I posted a quote. Would you like to read it?
Life has no limitations except the ones you make. Charlie Brown. Oh, Les Brown. Sorry, Charlie's brother, Les.
Charlie's brother. That's exactly right. His adopted brother.
Well,
That's right.
hour and a half, sis. And on my computer, and I can't show you. I don't know what's going on. It's you, me, and Missy for the whole hour and a half. I don't believe.
Oh, that's okay.
But I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Like, not that I need accolades. The technology is driving me nuts.
Yeah, well, it's always been weird that I never see anybody and you see people. So that's always been weird too. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I see
you
things.
see people. Yeah, exactly right.
Okay. Well, everybody.
Thanks for coming, Missy.
Yeah, thanks, Missy. Appreciate your support. Thanks, everybody that is on our live, watching it live, and those that watch it later. You know what? Michelle and I we try to be really transparent and real. And
keep it real.
The fact that you come along, what's that?
So keeping it real.
Yeah, and she's crazier than me, but when we get together, we do weird stuff. And then if we put our baby brother Jimmy in it, then it's like we need to be locked in a cell or something. Yeah, but you know what?
The rest of them too.
Yeah, I think, well, we may change because that's what I do because I'm older. This whole idea of the idea of habits, and the habits being prisons in our mind and our heart.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're probably going to follow up with it. Michelle and I'll talk a little bit, but we appreciate the time you take. We appreciate the time. Oh, there's more people on here. I'm going to cry now. There's people. No, we've got my only fan isn't. I thought my only fan was the one that was blowing. No, Eric. But you know what? We're sharing our journey with you guys.
See Nadine, there she is.
Yes.
You are enough, and you are
Nadine. You know what, Nadine?
Love it.
I look forward to whenever my next trip is to the east, and I actually really hope I get to meet some of Michelle's people.
Yeah, I hope so too. That'd be awesome.
So okay, well, we better go.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. If you just slid in at the end, feel free to rewind. Once we're done here, you'll be able to do that. And we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget how awesome you are. Take care.
Bye.